All right, welcome back. Today I will go over a quiz given on February 12th. Now the directions for this quiz were to simplify. And reminding you, simplify means to add, subtract, multiply, and divide until you cannot do this anymore. So directions for this quiz were to simplify. Question number 1 says -3 quantity squared, x to the -3rd, y to the 3rd power, all over -9 squared, x to the -7th power, y to the 8th power, all this to the -3rd power. And I want you to notice this problem has no addition. Okay, so remember, if there's no addition, you're just using multiplication rules or laws of exponents. Circle the outer exponent. Remember, we deal with the outer exponent last. Now, let's take care of what's on the inside first. Reminding you, -3 quantity squared. If I write -2, for instance, -2 quantity squared, do exponents distributive or multiplication? Yes. Are we squaring both the negative and the 2? Yes. This is -2 multiplied by -2, which gives +4. You see 4 things. You see -1, -1, 2, and 2. We're squaring the -1 and the 2, giving us +4. However, -2 squared, without the parentheses, the exponent just affects the immediate preceding number or variable unless there's parentheses. So we're just squaring the 2. In this case, this means what? -2 times 2, which is -4. So in this problem, we see a difference between -3 quantity squared and -9 squared. Let's start the problem. Now, let me grab my eraser. Okay, so on the first, we're going to deal with the outer exponent last. Are we squaring the negative and the 3? Yes. There is parentheses, so the exponent affects both. This means -3 times -3, which is +9. Okay, now, over, are we squaring the negative and the 9? No, we're just squaring the 9. So we have 9 times 9, which is 81, and we have a negative outside. So we have -81. And reminding you, negatives need to go in the numerator. So I want you to let the negative float to the top. I want you to put the negative in the numerator and erase it in the denominator. Okay, so negatives just float around. Okay, I want you to always put your negatives in the numerator. Now, we have x to the -3rd. We're done with the first. We're done with the second, our numbers. Now let's deal with x to the -3rd. We don't want negative exponents. Remember, final answers cannot have negative exponents, so we change negative exponents to positive. The x to the -3rd will move to the bottom, becoming x to the +3rd, and cross it out. Now, y to the 3rd. Y to the 3rd is a positive exponent, or has a positive exponent, so we're going to leave it where it is. So just write y to the 3rd. Now, cross it out. One thing at a time. X to the -7th. Okay, since the exponent is negative, we're going to move it from the bottom to the top and make the exponent positive. This will be x to the +7, and y to the 8th stays where it is because the exponent is already positive. Okay, so we have y to the 8th, okay, left alone, and now all this to the -3rd power. Now, before we deal with this outer exponent, again, we need to finish what's on the inside. That means cancel. So we're going to start with our numbers. What number divides 9 and 81? Hopefully you say 9. 9 divided by 9 is a 1. Remember, the negative is disconnected from the 9. These are not connected, but we think of these as two separate things, -1 and 9. So you're canceling the 9 with the 81. Not worrying about the negative. 9 divided by 9 is 1. We don't write it. 81 divided by 9 is 9. Now, cancel your x to the 3rd with your x to the 7th. Notice 3 x's cancel with 7 x's, leaving how many x's? Hopefully you say 4 x's where? On top, because there are more x's on top. 3 y's cancel with 8 y's, leaving how many y's? Hopefully you say, if you take 8 and subtract 3, you get 5. Remember, this is a matter of subtracting in our heads. 3 y's cancel with 8, leaving 5 y's where? Well, since there's more y's on the bottom, we're going to have 5 y's on the bottom. Now, this results in, go ahead and rewrite the result. We have negative on top, and we also have x to the 4th, okay, over 9y to the 5th, and all of this to the -3rd power. Now, okay, so now that we've dealt with what's on the inside is very simple now. We can deal with what's on the outside. Remember, negative exponents mean flip what's inside. So we're going to take the we're going to flip what's on the inside and change the negative exponent to positive on the outside. Remember, when we flip it, nothing changes on the inside. So negative x to the 4th moves to the bottom, and 9y to the 5th moves to the top. Notice nothing has changed. Negative x to the 4th to the bottom, 9y to the 5th to the top. Nothing changes on the inside. The only thing that changes is if the outer exponent changes from negative to positive. So now we have a positive 3. Now, we are going to cube everything inside parentheses. Remember, there is no addition, so the exponent affects everything. We're cubing 9. 9 times 9 is 81 times 9. This is not 9 times 3. This means 9 times 9 times 9. This is 81 times another 9. This is not a hard calculation. 81 times 9 is 729. So we get 729. Cubing y to the 5th. Remember, power of power, we multiply the exponents. Reminding you, this means y to the 5th times y to the 5th times y to the 5th. Instead of writing y to the 5th 3 times and adding 5 3 times, it's faster to multiply. 3 times 5 gives what? Y to the 15th over. Now, are we cubing the negative 1? Yes, we are cubing the negative 1, which is what? Negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. Reminding you, if you have an odd number of negative 1s, you get a negative 1 as a result. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1 times negative 1 gives negative 1. So we end up with negative 1. Now, where does the negative need to go? The negative needs to go in the numerator. So let's go ahead and put it in front of the 729 and not write it in the denominator. Now, cubing x to the 4th, we multiply the exponents. 3 times 4 gives what? X to the 12th. And this is your final answer. Now, number 2 on the quiz, probably the most important question. Number 2 says quantity x plus y squared. Now, when I ask this question to students, many times I get this answer. I get x squared plus y squared. And this is the worst mistake you can make in Algebra 2. Are we squaring the x and squaring the y? Or should I say this? Do exponents distribute over addition? No. Okay, let's look at this. If I write xy, quantity squared, notice we have multiplication. Do exponents distribute over multiplication? Yes. We get x squared, y squared. Okay, exponents distribute over multiplication, but x plus y, quantity squared, exponents do not distribute over addition. Remember, exponents are rules of multiplication. What happens when multiplication meets addition? When multiplication meets addition, distributive property applies. So don't square the x. Do not do this. Do not write x squared plus y squared. Rather, what does it mean when we square something? We write it twice. X plus y times what? X plus y. And you see that multiplication is meeting addition. What property applies here? We have distributive property. Okay? Why is that not the case here? Well, here we have xy quantity squared, which is what? xy times xy. And since there's no addition, you can just simply multiply, get x squared and y squared. So notice, exponents distribute over multiplication, but exponents do not distribute over addition. So we write this what? We write this twice and use distributive property. Now, let's go ahead and work the problem. Again, do not make this mistake. It comes in 100 forms. Well, not 100, but many forms. You're going to make this mistake several times this semester. Exponents do not distribute over addition. You say, well, you've shown me. How can I make the mistake if you've shown me? Well, it comes disguised in many forms. This is the worst mistake you can make. Exponents do not distribute over addition. We write this twice. So what does x plus y quantity squared mean? Okay, writing it again. X plus y quantity squared means what? X plus y multiplied by quantity x plus y. And when multiplication meets addition, we use what? Distributive property. So we're going to underline the x minus y, and we will distribute. So we have x plus y times x plus y times x, plus quantity x plus y times y. And again, this is not familiar to our eyes. Do we write quantity x plus y times 3, or do we write 3 times quantity x plus y? Which one is more familiar to your eyes? Well, hopefully you say the second one is more familiar. So instead of writing this as x plus y quantity times x, we're going to write it as x times quantity x plus y times quantity x plus y. And notice, we're going to skip this step. All right, now, from the top, one more time, we're going to take quantity x plus y multiplied by x. We get what? X times quantity x plus y. Notice, quantity x plus y times x is the same as flipping it around. X times quantity x plus y, plus we're going to take quantity x plus y multiplied by y. We get what? Y times quantity x plus y. And now notice, we are not done multiplying. We still have multiplication meeting addition, so distributive property still applies. We take x times x and get x squared. Remember, you're adding the exponents, gluing things together with multiplication. X times y is what? xy. Now take y multiplied by x. Okay, so y times x. Students write yx. No, I want you to write your variables in alphabetical order. Y times x is the same as what? X times y. So put your variables in alphabetical order, x, y. It's easier to see that they match if you put them in alphabetical order. Now, y times y gives what? y squared. Now, we are done multiplying. Now, what are we doing? We are adding. So when we add, we look for things that match. Does anything match x squared? No. So write x squared, cross it out. Does anything match xy? Yes. What matches doesn't change when you add. So xy does not change. Add what's in front. We have a positive 1, we add these. 1 plus 1 is what? 2xy. And then cross these out, we have a plus y squared on the end, and we are done simplifying because nothing else matches. Okay, number 3. Number 3 says quantity x plus 2 multiplied by quantity x squared minus 2x plus 4. We're going to take quantity x plus 2. When multiplication meets addition, what property applies? Distributive property. So we're going to just distribute. And notice we have 3 terms. So we're going to have first, put your monomial x squared first. X squared multiplied by quantity what? X plus 2. Then what? Minus 2x. This term, monomial first, minus 2x times quantity x plus 2. And then put your 4 first, plus 4 times quantity what? X plus 2. And notice, we are not done with distributive property. Multiplication meets addition again. We distribute again. X squared times x. You're adding the exponents. We get x to the third. X squared times 2 is what? 2x squared. Now here, do not distribute the negative and change the signs and change this to addition. Rather, let the negative be connected to the 2x. And just remember that the negative 2 is going to multiply by each number, changing the sign. So negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. X times x is x squared. Now, negative 2x times 2, take the negative 2 times 2, we get negative 4, and put the x after. Okay, so negative 4x. Now take the 4, distribute. 4 times x is what? 4x. And 4 times 2 is 8. Notice, we are done multiplying. Now we are adding. Does anything match x cubed? No. So write your x cubed and cross it out. Does anything match your x squared term? Yes. X squared matches x squared, so put your x squared. And what is 2 minus 2? Signs are different. We subtract. 2 minus 2 gives what? 0x squared. Now this is a problem. I see students don't know what to do with 0x squared. Guys, what is 0 times 5? 0 times 5 is 0. What is 0 times x? 0 times x is 0. Okay, so what is 0 times x squared? 0 times anything is just 0, and we don't write it. So 0x squared, we say it like this. 2x squared minus 2x squared, these terms cancel out, giving 0. Negative 4x plus 4x, the x does not change. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0, so these terms also cancel out, and we don't have to write anything. And what's left on the end? We have a positive 8 on the end, and our final answer is x cubed plus 8. So reminding you, we had a binomial times a trinomial. It looks large, but it can collapse into something very small. We have a binomial as a result. Okay, number 4. Trying to move quickly here. Number 4. We had what? Very similar to number 3. Number 4 is quantity x minus 3 multiplied by quantity x squared plus 3x plus 9. And again, multiplication meets addition. What property applies? We have distributive property. So we're going to distribute. Okay, so we have put quantity x squared minus 3 times x squared. Put your monomial first. X squared times quantity x minus 3. Now, quantity x minus 3 times 3x. We have what? 3x monomial first. And then we have times quantity x minus 3. And now quantity x minus 3 times the 9. Put the 9 first times quantity x minus 3. And notice, we're still not done with distributive property. We have multiplication meeting addition again. We distribute. X squared times x gives x to the third. We're adding exponents. X squared times negative 3 is negative 3x squared. Now, 3x times x. 3x times x is what? 3 times 1 is 3. X times x is x squared. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9, and we have an x on the end. Okay, now, 9 times x is 9x. 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. Now, we are done multiplying. Now we are adding. So does anything match x cubed? Hopefully you say no. So we write our x cubed term. We're done. Does anything match our x squared term? Yes. So we write x squared. What matches doesn't change. What is negative 3 plus 3? Well, negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So these cancel out. We have no x squared term because we get a 0. Negative 9x plus 9x. Again, negative 9 plus 9 is 0. So these cancel out. We get what? Minus 27. So x cubed minus 27 is the result. You see the similarity in these two problems. Notice things can cancel out and you're left with something very small. Okay? Number 5. A little more basic, but confusion on the variables possibly. Okay, number 5 said what? Let's see here. Number 5, we have 3xy squared multiplied by 4x squared minus 7x plus 1 plus y squared multiplied by quantity 2x squared plus 8x plus 2. Okay, so here we have what? Monomial times trinomial. So this is a little easier, except that we have a lot of variables to deal with. Okay, so we're going to use distributive property. Why? Because multiplication's meeting addition. It's the same thing here. Multiplication's meeting addition. We have distributive property. Okay, 3xy squared times 4x squared. We start with our number. I think I wrote this down correctly. Yeah, everything's right. Now, we start with the number. 3 times 4 gives what? 12. And now x times x squared, we add the exponents. 1x times 2 more x's is x to the third. And we have a y squared tied to the end. This is all glued together. Think of this as 3xy squared multiplied by 4x squared. What we did 3 lessons ago, just multiplying monomials. We do the 3 and the 4. Remember, multiplication is like glue. X times x squared is x to the third, and we still have the y squared attached to the end. So don't forget to glue everything together as one term. Now, 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. X times x is x squared, and we have a y squared attached to the end. 3 times 1 is 3, and we have the xy squared attached to the end. Now, keep going. Y squared times 2x squared. Remember, put your variables in alphabetical order. We have 1 times 2 is 2. Put your x squared first, and put your y squared second. Now, y squared times 8x, we have what? Plus 8. Put your x first, and put your y squared second. And then y squared times the 2, I'm running out of space, is plus 2y squared. Okay, a little bit out of space there. Hopefully you can see. Now, here, let me just rewrite this so we can visualize it. Here, 12x cubed y squared minus 21x squared y squared plus 3xy squared plus 2x squared y squared plus 8. I'm getting in the same position. 12x cubed y squared minus 21x squared y squared plus 3xy squared plus 2x squared y squared plus 8xy squared plus 2y squared. Okay, so I'm just erasing this so you can see it. Now, we are done multiplying. Now we're adding. So we're asking, does anything match x cubed y squared? Does anything match x cubed y squared? No. We're looking for exact match on the variables. No. So we're done with 12x cubed y squared. Remember, when you're adding, things must match. Now look at your x squared y squared. Does anything match x squared y squared? Yes. Underline it here. What matches doesn't change, so we have x squared y squared does not change. Add what's in front. Negative 21 plus 2. Remember, if the signs are different, you actually subtract. 21 minus 2 is 19. And take the sign of the larger. Since the larger one is negative, this is negative 19. X squared y squared. Cross these out. It helps if you cross your terms out so you see what's left. Does anything match xy squared? Yes, we have an xy squared here. So write xy squared and add what's in front. 3 plus 8, signs are the same, you add plus what? Plus 11 xy squared, cross these out, and we're left with a plus 2y squared on the end. And this is your final answer. You cannot go any further because addition requires that things match. This is simplified. Now, last 3 questions. Number 6, kind of simple. Well, I guess tricky maybe if you weren't paying attention to what was said in the videos. There was a little example I gave on this. 4x squared y minus 7xy squared minus 8y cubed. Requires close attention. But if you look at this and you think, okay, what are we doing here? We're adding. Okay, we're adding. Does x squared y match anything? No. Does xy squared match anything? No. Does y cubed? No. Nothing matches. So there's nothing you can do here. This is what? Already simplified. So you got full credit if you did not do anything. In the future, I want you to write already simplified. Okay, already simplified. Number 7 was 8 to the negative 2 power. Now, question again, is 8 to the negative 2 power a negative number? No. Remember, negative 8 is a negative value, okay? 8 to the negative 1 power is a positive number. This means what? Move 8 to the negative 1. You have a negative 1 exponent. Move it to the bottom, we get 1 over 8. Okay, so 8 to the negative 2 power does not mean, remember, negative exponents do not mean negative values. They mean move from numerator or to denominator, or the concept of change multiplication to division. So we move this where? Move it to the denominator, we get what? 1 over 8 squared. The exponent changes from negative to positive, and we simply multiply. Remember, you're not done here. Simplify means to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, so you cannot do this anymore. We can still do 8 times 8 and get 1 over what? 64, and we're done. Number 8. Number 8 was to name this. Okay, name 4x y squared minus 2z plus 7 over 6. Notice, is there, okay, question, is this a rational expression? Yes, all of these are rational expressions. Because polynomials, every polynomial is a rational expression, but if you call this rational expression, you lose a point. Why? I said we call something rational expression because rational expression is a very general term when there is a variable in the denominator. Notice, there is no variable in the denominator. We have a number 6 in the denominator, so this can be named more specifically a polynomial, and polynomial also loses points, rather be more specific than polynomial. Name it by the numerator. Since there's no variable in the denominator, this is what? This is a trinomial. So we name it by the numerator. Trinomial. Why? Because we can divide each number by 6. We get 4 over 6 xy squared minus 2 over 6z plus 7 over 6. And obviously this could be reduced to 2/3 and this could be reduced to 1/3. But you see this is a trinomial because you can divide every number by 6. And that concludes this video. Good luck on your homework, guys.